Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome. Please share, subscribe, like the video, and leave your comments. You are most welcome. For my returning viewers, as well as my subscribers, welcome back. So nice to have you. Of course, you know the ropes. You will want to go ahead and like the video from now on because when we get down to business, you don't want to be distracted. So please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. All right, so now it's down to business. So what am I going to be talking to you about today? I'm going to give you a little break from the IC report, and I'm going to bring you something now on the no confidence motion that the opposition attempted to bring to the House, because I found the wording of it most interesting. And I have a question or two for Mr. Golding too, myself. But in the meanwhile, I am going to let you listen to the news item that was brought on Primetime News on TVJ. Then I'll return with a thought or two of my own on the matter. Let's listen.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
And a special welcome once again to our viewers on TVJ International in the Cayman Islands and online at onesmartmedia.com.
Up first this evening, the parliamentary opposition today walked out of Gordon House after the Deputy House Speaker blocked their no-confidence motion against Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Now it follows the non-certification of Prime Minister Andrew Holness's statutory declarations by the Integrity Commission and the entity's damning report into the matter.
More from Andrea Chisholm.
When opposition leader Margo Golding rose to move the motion, House Speaker Juliet Holness excused herself from the sitting, leaving her deputy Heroy Clark to preside over the matter. That's because Mrs. Holness is the wife of the Prime Minister.
Whereas there is a ministerial code of conduct in place from 2002 that governs the conduct of members of the cabinet, and whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity.
Please. I don't even need to hear another word. If the member in any way intends to go down a road, that is, you can't understand if you don't listen. Permit yourself to use your ears and not your mouth. If it is that the member intends to travel down a road that is going to breach the standing orders in raising matters, let me just say it before, that are sub judice. Hold on, I'm just telling you, that cannot be accommodated in this House. So if that is the route, if that is the intention, stop now.
Remember, you start on a premise, and as far as the standing order is concerned, I hear the first part of where you're going.
Deputy House Speaker Heroy Clark used Section 22.3 of the Standing Orders, stating that the motion being moved by Mr. Golding is out of order. He also used the UK Parliamentary Handbook Erskine May to state that matters before the courts cannot be raised in a motion. On Monday, attorneys for the Prime Minister filed a suit in the Supreme Court seeking judicial review on the decisions made by the Integrity Commission. Back to the parliamentary sitting.
Because there is a matter now under judicial consideration, it ought not to be discussed as it is sub judice. At this time, I am now ruling that this motion will not be entertained.
Mr. Speaker, you've indicated this matter is sub judice. I'm not aware of that. However, what this motion engages is simply a matter
we are not
of a breach of the ministerial code of conduct by the Prime Minister.
And with that, the opposition walked out of the House and took the no-confidence motion to the streets, arguing that the Prime Minister breached the ministerial code of conduct.
So let me pause here before I let you hear the motion that the opposition was bringing to Parliament. I'm going to let you listen to the Speaker of the House, Juliet Holness, on her views as to whether the motion of no confidence should have been allowed to be tabled and debated. Let's listen.
Have, and myself particularly as Speaker, have repeated on many occasions that things need to get to the Parliament with adequate time so that we can read and we can ensure we follow the proper procedures. We were in fact notified by email that a motion would come, but it didn't come until just before I got to Parliament. And it does take some time to review and ensure that motions are properly laid. A signed copy of the motion came to me at the desk when Member Paulwell came to the desk during the sitting of the Parliament. And I just came out for a moment a while ago and I note the opposition walking out. I was coming back to tell them I'd gone out because I was just completing my review so that they could go ahead and debate if they so choose. However, even though they heard as much, they continued to walk out.
So basically what Madam Speaker was saying is that they did inform the House, or did inform her, that they intend to come with a motion of no confidence. And the actual motion was put before her while the House was in session. Basically, she's saying they did not have time to read the document, see what they were coming with. And this is what happened. It appears when she left to go and have a better look at the document placed before her, the Englishman got to his feet and attempted to lay the motion. Well, guess what? The government side didn't know what was in it. They didn't give him any chance to explain what was in it. And they shut him down before he could go anywhere because they did not get a chance to read what it was contained in the motion. And what the Speaker further said was that, based on what she read, there was nothing in it that would prevent them from laying the motion. That is what she's saying. She saw nothing in it. But of course, she needed the time. What they ought to probably have done is take a 5-minute or 10-minute break while they read what was in the motion. So the Englishman can bring it back to the Parliament if he likes, based upon what it was that the Speaker said. But sufficient to that day, let us now listen to what it was that he was proposing. And then, of course, when he's done, I'll have a question or two for him. Let's listen.
However, my motion is not dealing with the substance of that report, but is dealing with his own conduct as Prime Minister. And I wish to read the motion now so you can hear it. Whereas there is a ministerial code of conduct in place from 2002 that governs the conduct of members of the cabinet. And whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission from as far back as August 2023 for illicit enrichment. And whereas the concealment of this information by the Prime Minister is a breach of the ministerial code of conduct that guided the Prime Minister in removing from office ministers serving in the cabinet over which he presided. And whereas the annual reports of the Integrity Commission for 22-23 and for 23-24 stated that several members of Parliament, initially 6 and then 8, were under investigation for illicit enrichment, but none had come forward to disclose that he or she was under investigation. And whereas the Integrity Commission's investigation report on the 17th September 2024 tabled in Parliament named the Prime Minister as being under investigation for illicit enrichment. And whereas the Prime Minister, as Chairman of Cabinet, instructed members of Cabinet not to divulge the name of any member under investigation for illicit enrichment, contrary to the spirit of the Ministerial Code of Conduct. And whereas the actions of the Prime Minister have caused and continue to cause severe damage to the trust necessary for good order and respect for public office. Be it resolved that this Honourable House condemns the Prime Minister for not maintaining ethical standards of transparency and openness in government. Secondly, censures the Prime Minister for his acts of covering up and concealment of the names, including his own, of those members of the cabinet and or parliament of which he was and may still be aware, but has kept them in positions of influence in the cabinet with the effect of further undermining public trust in the institutions of government, and declares that the actions of the Prime Minister have severely undermined his credibility and trustworthiness, and that he no longer enjoys the confidence of this House. That was the motion that was to be put forward today and hopefully debated next week. We did not want it debated the same day that Prime Minister is not here in Jamaica. That would not be right or proper. However, we were not allowed to proceed with the tabling of the motion because the Speaker herself had removed herself because the matter affected her husband, and the Deputy Speaker ruled that the motion was improperly brought in breach of the standing orders, relying on the sub judice rule, and so the motion will not go forward. And we think that that is an abuse of the rules of Parliament, and no confidence motions have a very high place in our constitutional arrangements. If a no confidence motion is passed in Parliament, the Governor-General has to dissolve Parliament and call elections. So that is in section, I think, 64 of the Constitution, subsection 5. So for them to block the opposition from bringing a motion on the alleged basis that the matter is sub judice is really, in my view, a bad and sad day for our democracy. Again, it's an example of freedom of speech, freedom of association, our democratic principles being undermined by the misuse of power by the majority in Parliament. It's a very serious matter, and that is why we asked the media to come and hear what we had to say. Thank you.
I frankly don't know what freedom of speech and freedom of association to do with the motion you attempted to lay in the House. What's the connection? I don't get it. You attempted to lay a motion before the House, and you were prevented from doing so because they thought the matter was already before the court, and therefore you should not be speaking about it. And that is an affront to your freedom of speech and a freedom of association. What's the connection? Clearly there's none. And I suspect that what happened to you was that you had a lapse in concentration. Not a surprising lapse in concentration, because as we already determined, that there clearly is something wrong with you upstairs. Even the motion that you're bringing, this idiotic argument that the Prime Minister should have revealed to the people of Jamaica that he was on investigation for illicit enrichment, is a part of what we suspect for some time now, is that you're having some memory issues, evidently. You're not remembering things. And so from time to time, it shows itself in the way in which it did at this gathering outside of Parliament. Completely forgot what the motion was about. And you're talking about freedom of speech and freedom of association. What is the connection? There's none. So let us put that aside for the moment and let us see if we can get the understanding of what it is you're saying. So let me see if my ears is hearing right. You said that the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission from as far back as August 2023 for illicit enrichment. Is that your Marky? Let me listen, because I don't know if my ears was hearing right.
And whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission from as far back as August 2023 for illicit enrichment, and whereas the annual reports of the Integrity Commission for 22-23 and for 23-24 stated that several members of Parliament, initially 6 and then 8, were under investigation for illicit enrichment, but none had come forward to disclose that he or she was under investigation, be it resolved that this Honourable House condemns the Prime Minister for not maintaining ethical standards of transparency and openness in government. Secondly, censures the Prime Minister for his acts of covering up and concealment of the names, including his own, of those members of the Cabinet and or Parliament of which he was and may still be aware, but has kept them in positions of influence in the Cabinet with the effect of further undermining public trust in the institutions of government.
Now, my viewers and my subscribers, do you know what I find fascinating about this, campaign of this Englishman about the various members of parliament being investigated by the Integrity Commission. Do you know what I find most fascinating? The fact that he never mentioned, not even once, that there were persons, 7 of them, that were being investigated for making false statements on their statutory declarations. Even when you heard him here reading these, and I played some clips, further clips, so you can hear again what he said. At no time did he mention the fact that the commission was investigating the Prime Minister for having made false statements on his declaration. He left that out. You would never know if 411 did not bring it to your attention that there were 7, very possibly, let me put it to you this way. In the latest Integrity Commission annual report, 2023-2024, it stated that there were 2 of the persons, the parliamentarians who were being investigated for making false statements on their declarations, that they were also being investigated for illicit enrichment. But did you also know that there were 3 of the 6 persons who were being investigated for illicit enrichment who were also being investigated for making false statements on their declaration? We know that because we saw it in the report, and the report also said that there were still the same 13 that was being investigated. So it's the 13 members of parliament. Now it seems as if the others that were being investigated for illicit enrichment, maybe, we don't know how far advanced they are with that. But you never hear the Englishman here who prims up in the parliament illegally, right, talking about that. And it makes me wonder, why is he not mentioning that? Isn't that equally corruption? Because a person who makes a false statement, it could be that they left something off by mistake and they are charged, in which event the prosecutor will do what she did for Andrew Holness and not bother to prosecute, right? If she thinks it's inadvertent. But if it was done deliberately, or where they conclude that it was deliberate, then it's a very serious charge that they are facing, because they would have had their reasons for leaving those assets off in the first place. In other words, it may be to cover up the fact that some illicit business went on, and because the income cannot cover that asset, they decided to hide it and don't declare it. I wonder if you understand what I'm saying. So the fact that he's not speaking about those members of parliament, the 7, now 10, right? Same group of people, same group of 13, who were now being investigated for making false statements on their declaration. He's not referring to that. Makes me wonder. And you know what I'm wondering? And I want to ask you, Mr. Golding, since you said that the Prime Minister should have come out and tell the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated for illicit enrichment, since you said that that is what he ought to have done, and you're bringing this motion to the Parliament in order to censor him and condemn him for keeping it secret. This is your position, so you want us to believe that this is what you think, despite the fact that the law says one thing, that nobody is supposed to talk about the fact that they are being investigated. You're coming with this motion, right, to give the impression that somehow the Prime Minister did something wrong, and the other persons who are being investigated for illicit enrichment, they are also doing something wrong, and presumably by extension, those who are not coming out to say that they are being investigated for making false statements on their declaration, they are doing something wrong according to your logic. Let me ask you a question. Are you, Mark Golding, being investigated by the Integrity Commission for having made false statements on your declaration? Come out and tell us. Since you think that this is a principled position that you hold, Are you being investigated by the Integrity Commission for having made false statements on your declaration? Did you declare the trust fund that you had in the Cayman Islands? Was it the Cayman Islands? Yes, I do believe. I believe it was held by what? What are they called? Applegate Trust? Did you declare that in your statutory declaration? The apartment for which you and your sister are now directors of a company called, if my memory serves me right, Goldex Limited. Did you declare that? You're supposed to declare if you're a director, and you're supposed to have produced for the Integrity Commission audited reports for that company, declaring its assets, right? And declaring your interest in those assets, if anything. I don't know why it is that people are saying that you own property in the United Kingdom, but that is not strange because you have family. Your family, that's where they're from. Your mother was born in Scarborough, England, and her parents are from Scarborough, right? Her parents, the Jefferson, are from Scarborough. It is doubtful to me that Logan Levy would have gone and married somebody who didn't have no property, didn't have nothing. So it's not strange that you should inherit properties from your British family. Not strange at all. It is also not strange, like your paternal grandmother, your father's mother, who left in trust her estate for her son and your father, which I do believe you have declared that. Now, the thing is, I don't know why it is that I had this dream the other night that you have several properties in the United Kingdom as well, real estate properties. I would like to liken my dream to visions. Is my vision correct? Mark Golding, do you have several real estate properties in the United Kingdom? Is it true? And if you do, did you declare them? And if it is true and you did not declare them, why would you not declare them? Is it that you think that it is nobody's business? Or is it that you think that nobody will find out? Because that is what my dream suggests, you know. My dream is suggesting that you believe this thing is under control. But then that's just a dream. The question is my dream a vision? Is it true? So let me ask you the question for a third time. Are you being investigated by the Integrity Commission for having made false statements on your statutory declarations by omission? Answer that question. Since you believe that Andrew Holness should have come out and tell everybody that he was being investigated, are you being investigated? Come out and tell us. What's in that? To say that you're being investigated for having made false statements by omission. That's a little something. That's just a little something, like when Andrew left off his bank accounts. No harm done. You're just going to have to pay a nice fine of how much? Thousands. And get a slap on the wrist. It's doubtful that they'll send you to jail. And it's doubtful that anybody will hold it against you. Or at any rate, the only thing that anybody will hold against you is your blatant hypocrisy. You are a man of no principle, man of no conviction, and as the people of old-time Kemet would say, and call your own people, you're a man without soul. You and your clique, your basic strategy is very simple. It has been known for years that the vast majority of the people of this country are ignorant about a lot of things. Many of them don't read. Many of them don't try to understand anything. And some of them have difficulties understanding some of the basic issues. And so, politicians for some time have been taking advantage of that. Not educating the people, not trying to teach the people anything. But I do believe that since independence, at least, this is the first time a political party would be using as an election strategy a deliberate attempt to exploit the ignorance of the people by telling them not the truth, but lies, not caring that they are telling lies, as long as at the end of the day, those ignorant people believe those lies and act upon them. Recently, when you were having a conference, your press conference, you referred to the Integrity Commission's report, and you were reading from the report and said some rather strange things in your interpretation of the report, which, in my opinion, Andrew Holness ought to drop a lawsuit in your ass for defamation. You spoke about the 28 bank accounts, which the report said was associated with Andrew Holness, and substitute your own word that he had operated 28 bank accounts because you were seeking to give a certain impression. I do believe in law and call that innuendo. I'm not a lawyer, no, but I catch on two little things from time to time when you hear them lawyer talk. Yes. So you said he operated the 28 bank accounts, when in fact he was operating 9 bank accounts. Several of them were closed. 2 each for the companies that he holds, and he had some for himself, and he may have been using only maybe about 2 or 3. The rest of them he's not basically using. But you are not interested in telling the people that. The 28 bank account sound like something that you could use to impress and exploit the ignorance of our people, not to educate them. You then went on to speak about the cashless deposits by way of ATM machine, by, according to you, persons that the Integrity Commission to this day do not know. Now, I don't know where in the report you read that. What was in the report was that there were transactions of deposits in the account of Holness through an ATM machine to his Jamaica National Bank account, 4.5 million or thereabouts. And in the report, it was identified that it was one of the partners, one of the shareholders in Estate Bridge, who was paying an obligation that he had on signing. He had an obligation to pay on signing $6 million for developing the land, which was owned by ADMAT, transferred to Estate Bridge. And by now, everyone should know that Andrew Holness was the principal shareholder of ADMAT and Imperium. So the man was paying the money at the ATM machine. So when you came and told the public, the Jamaican people, that there were more than one persons and the identities of them are not known by the Integrity Commission, that was an outright lie. Where you see that in the report? But you see, you're pandering to the ignorance of the helpless people out there who are trusting people like you to come and tell them the truth so they can understand what is happening and make an intelligent decision about how they're going to vote. But you're not interested in that. What you are interested in, you and Bunting, this is no strategy, is to exploit them, feed them with a whole heap of lies, demonize Holness, right? And feed them with a whole heap of lies, thinking that when election come now, they will be going to the poll and they will now vote to put you in a Jamaica house. Because you think they're not only ignorant, but they're fool too. If we are not able to get you out of a parliament before the next election, you really believe that the Jamaican people go and take you and put in a Jamaica house over Andrew Holness? Damaged goods. Look on you too. Look at you. Go look in your mirror. You are the descendant of people who enslaved their foreparents, transport them across the Atlantic Ocean in deplorable condition, beat and whip and rape them. And you really believe that the people in Jamaica fool enough to take you and put in a Jamaica house? But you don't write it. Here you are, Prims up into the parliament with your illegal self. Come talk about other people. Integrity. You're not the right messenger for this message, Mark Golding. You're not the right messenger. And look at the faces of all of your colleagues. There are 10 of them around you. Why you think them face make up so? Because not one of them know whether or not they are being investigated for anything. Last year's only 2 persons of the parliamentarians, the whole 84 of you. Only 2 persons had their declaration certified. You are one of them, Mark Golding, but who is the other lucky one? Anyone out of your 10? I doubt that very much. Chances are it's one of the government ministers, and very possibly the Minister of Finance. There are still 23 parliamentarians whose statutory declarations have not been certified since 2018. 23! How many of the 9 people around you fall in that category, Mark? So the whole of them faces made up behind you. Wondering what the hell is going on at the Integrity Commission. Only getting calls from them? Because Andrew Holness was suggesting that his side was getting a lot of calls. And suggested that when you say you're not getting any call, he was suggesting not go so. So see the whole of them face behind you, Mark? Fretting. Don't know what is going on with their declaration. Besides, the Observer did publish a couple of weeks ago leaked information, no doubt, from the Integrity Commission that of the 8 people who were being investigated for illicit enrichment, 5 of them were PMP, 3 of them labor rights, and 1 of the PMP apparently was one of the mayors or one of the high officials, either mayor or a deputy mayor, being investigated. But you have all along been trying to deflect the people from, thinking that maybe your side was involved by claiming outright that they were all labor rights. You hope to gain as much as you can from that piece of misinformation, in the hope that at the end of the day, if your people name get called, people will not believe it. See, it's a simple strategy, coming out of Bunting's playbook. But guess what? It is our responsibility to counteract whatever it is that you think you're doing. And the only thing that can counteract a lie is the truth. And when it comes to black people, Mark Golding, yes, I've said it before. Lies are very debilitating to our people. But the truth is what will fix them good and proper and set them free. But truth is something that you can't deal with. Your whole makeup is based upon a lie. And therefore you can thrive very well with lies. But you know very well that our people cannot. And so it is our solemn duty to ensure every time a lie comes out of your mouth, that we ensure that our people knows the truth. So keep on doing what you're doing, Sammy. It shall surely be your ruin and your downfall. Anyway, folks, that's what I have for you today. I hope you find this video informative as you find the others. And mind you, if any of you happen to buck up that Englishman anywhere, please ask him the question for us. Ask him whether or not he's being investigated by the Integrity Commission for having made false statements on his declaration. Yes, tell him that we want to know. And also, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share, and leave your comments in the comments section. Subscribe if you have not done so as yet. So until next time, you take good care of yourselves and walk good.